who are you? Are you going to be what we often call a lifestyle company? There are very large, very successful lifestyle companies. I was recently talking to a guy at the Ruger Arms Company. It's a family-owned company in Colorado. It's been in existence for 75 years. It's still run by the Ruger family. Well, they're all wealthy as can be, and they're actually running that business. It's a privately owned company. They're not looking for investment. They're not gonna do an IPO. They're making too much money by running their company. The kind of the polar opposite of that would be the restaurant across the street. They're not going to do an IPO. They're not going to get venture capitalists come in and do an investment. They're going to run that restaurant and make money. The key thing is, if you find yourself in that area, then your funding is not something that's going to happen. And you want to start thinking in terms of other ways of raising money. The opposite side of that is, if you're here and you've already done 2 or 3 successful startups, you've had successful exits, well, you're probably not in the audience tonight, because when you have your next idea, you've already worked with a VC, you've already worked with one of the big Silicon Valley law firms. You're probably going to get a job offer as what's called an entrepreneur in residence at a VC, so that they can fund your next startup. That's not what we deal with here. Probably most of you are somewhere in this middle area. You're getting something going, you're trying to figure out, am I going to be a mom and pop, or am I going to be something that can seek funding successfully? What you're going to find out is that most people who fall into that, typically this is the first time you're going through a startup, which means all of those decisions about LLC, corporation, Nevada, are huge and confusing. And what's really kind of a nightmare is, it turns out there's a lot of very complicated, forget the legal part of it, just tax issues involved in setting up a small business like that. And there's a lot of bad advice out there. And one of the things I'd also ask you to get out of the habit of doing right now is Googling for answers. It's not that Google's a bad place to look for answers, but remember what I said about there's 50 independent countries. Anytime you Google something, make 100% sure that the site you're reading is somebody in California. You don't want to get to a great website on starting and forming an LLC only to find out that it's an Arkansas attorney that's writing it or something like that. The laws in different states are genuinely quite different. Federal law is not. Federal law is the same in all 50 states, but you're going to find 90% of what you're going to be dealing with is either California law, or if you file an out-of-state entity like a Delaware corporation or a Nevada corporation, you're going to have to deal with Delaware law or Nevada law. So be really careful with Google.